business sentiment report. Well, let's get IG Markets call then for the Australian market open. We're joined by Chris Weston now from Melbourne. Chris, great to see you. Thanks for your time. I just wanted to ask you, what do you think? And was there a sense too of perhaps a bit of resilience overnight in what we saw, even though we are having all of these fresh concerns about global economic recovery?
We've been hearing, and I've been thinking about this for some time, that perhaps now we're due a bit of a pullback, and a pullback would be very healthy indeed for risk assets because it would get rid of some of the weak longs, attract some fresh capital into these markets. But yeah, like you say, there was a bit of resilience last night. People looking to buy the dips. We saw the euro trade down to 128.91, Aussie traded down 103.87. You saw the Kiwi dollar down at 81.84. But again, you saw good buying coming through there. And perhaps we're due for a bit of a bounce in some of these risk assets now, given what's been happening with the global monetary easing cycle that's coming through. We've been hoping for a little bit more of a pullback than this to get in, but perhaps we're due a bit of a bounce in the short term because of the resilience we're seeing. S&P coming out last night, that was down 0.6%. I do think the equity markets do look very tired at the moment, but the S&P was down 0.6%, and that attracted buyers throughout the day, although there was a bit of a late session sell-off. Now, I think if you look at Europe, and this is really where most of the focus is taking place at the moment, there does seem to be this lack of cohesion between leaders at the moment. You're seeing that between Merkel and Hollande in terms of a supervisory board for the banking system. That's not looking like it's going to sort itself out anytime soon, and they're supposed to have a roadmap for this fiscal integration for the banking system integration by the October EU summit. So I think that's going to be an interesting one to keep your eye on. Obviously, people are worried about what's happening with Spain. When are they going to tap assistance from the ECB liquidity system? And we did see one of the CDU party members, Angela Merkel's party members last night, coming out for saying, for all intents and purposes, the Spanish have got a communication problem with the market. They just need to accept assistance sooner rather than later. So, that's another one to keep your eye on. And then the other one is clearly what's happening with the Greek exit. Now, Lagarde overnight, the IMF fund manager or the IMF director, coming out and saying that giving a very clear indication she's willing to give the Greeks a bit more flexibility, and this is very much at odds with Mr. Schaubl's comments in recent times, where they have to abide by the rules that have been set in place. So, I think there's the lack of cohesion in Europe is clear to see, but at the same time, very good buying in a lot of the risk assets. We saw that predominantly in gold and silver, where that had a nice pickup from the lows as well last night.
Just got to ask you too, Chris, we did see, just as the US market was closing, Caterpillar come out and cut its 2015 earnings forecast. Shares fell around 2.5% or so in after-hours trade there, citing weak global economic conditions. And this for 2015. So, they're talking about this continuing for a number of years, this weak global economic situation.
Well, I think that's probably the case. I think Martin Ferguson would probably agree with that. I think the ability for them to give that guidance that far out is incredible, to be honest. I don't think there's many companies out there that would say that we can give forecast, quantitative guidance for 2 or 3 years. I think that's, shows great foresight and great encouragement in their market. I do think that they're going to be market leader in what they do for quite some time, and that's probably given them the confidence to be able to do that. So I think it will be interesting. I didn't actually see the release myself, Bridie. This may have ramifications on other stocks with similar thematics. Your Bradkins, for example, may follow suit. That they generally take the advice there. Obviously, Seven has Caterpillar exposure there as well, so that may again take a lead from that. But if you can give guidance out that long, even if it's negative, it shows you know your market very, very well, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, just also too, looking at the opening call then for our market, given we saw those weaker commodities, particularly overnight. What do you think? What are we going to see?
Well, it's going to be probably one of the most unexciting starts we've seen for quite some time. The markets, for all intents and purposes, looks pretty flat. We're going into the end of the quarter. I spoke about it yesterday. It's all about gold stocks at the moment. Gold is up about $3 from yesterday's close, even though it did have quite a nice pullback, as did silver. I think of the top 10 performing stocks this quarter, 7 of them are gold stocks, led by Oceana Gold, which is up about 62% of the ASX 200. So, I think that's a place at the moment where we're probably vulnerable to some profit taking, but the price of gold in my mind is likely to push higher as time goes on. I think BHP's ADR this morning is down about 0.4%, so a slightly weaker open. I did see that Citigroup had cut Rio Tinto to a neutral capacity from a buy, so that may underperform a little bit. And of course, we're looking at very closely at the iron ore price, which fell another 2.5% to just that 103 level, still above the psychological important 100 level. But I think that may feed into some of the valuations. Fortescue, for example. Although I did see some comments overnight from Moody's, who said that because of the extra liquidity these guys have got from their funding situation, that they're viewing their credit rating in a slightly more positive capacity. So I think interesting. I think the other situation is we have seen the industrial stocks being absolutely smashed. I think since the recent high, Monadelphous has dropped about 18% or so from around 23.89 to current levels, and I think Goldman Sachs have upgraded the stock from a sell recommendation to a neutral recommendation. So some of the stocks in that space have been hit pretty hard. We may start seeing some upgrades coming through in that space because of the distance now between current underlying share price and price targets for some of these brokers.
Chris, it's always great to get your thoughts. Look forward to talking to you throughout the session too. Thank you so much. Chris Weston there from IG Markets. Now,